Hey guys, so I'm going to show you the next step in our project for our superhero face design. So we practiced this together, how to draw a face and line up all the features. From there we went to using the mask templates to practice drawing the facial features in. Remember, you can change the design of the mask. It doesn't have to stay the same, but this is a nice place where you can plug in the eyes, nose, and mouth and practice that. Once you have one you like, then you can use the light table or a window to trace those same features onto a plain piece of paper, and you can make any changes to the mask as you want. So you can see, like, I took this, and this was exactly traced. I just replaced the V with the cross. I added in the lower mask because mine's a medical superhero. So I just kept the features I wanted, but I still used the mask as a way to make sure everything was the right size and lined up right. So you can see when I trace this, it's nice clean lines. It's not sketchy because I was tracing my practice work. So this one should be nice and clean because you made all your mistakes on the other papers. And then because this is going to be like a comic book, we are going to outline it in Sharpie because a lot of cartoons and comics do have black outlines. So, and when you outline it with Sharpie, you should be, again, not being sketchy. You should try and go for a smooth line. So make sure when you start a line, try to make it your goal to finish that without stopping and starting. If you need to, for whatever reason, you can, but try to make these lines as clean as possible and stay on the track. So that means just going real slow. We are not coloring with the Sharpies at all. These are all going to be lines. If you do go off track, don't let that throw you off. Just kind of continue your line as smoothly as possible, and we can erase. Like, I'm a little off. You probably can't see it, but I'll erase any of my lines that, don't quite line up perfectly. I'll get rid of those pencil lines as long as I'm close enough. Okay, be especially careful with these features because that is what we have been practicing. If you want to do the black dot of the pupil, I would say that's the one thing you can color in with a Sharpie now, just because it is a small little dot. And if you have like a couple hairlines, like eyebrows or things like that, again, don't color them. Keep them as lines, so slow and steady, and just watch the path they're supposed to take. If you did want to change something about your drawing, I would say do it first in pencil. That way you know it's a good change and you like it before you hit it with Sharpie. Okay, oh, missed one. And double check to make sure you have them all. Oh, see, I missed another one. Feel free to use a ruler if needed to keep your lines straight if you aren't confident in making straight lines free-handed. Okay, so now with coloring. So you have a lot of creative freedom here because you're creating the superhero. It may not have regular skin tones. It might have blue skin or green skin, but still watch this video for the tips I have about coloring. I'm going to color mine as if it was, a regular human. But skin colors vary. If we all put our hands together, we'd all have differences in how light, dark, how brown we are, how reddish we are. So there's lots of different kinds of browns that you can play with. This superhero drawing I plan on cutting out and gluing onto a different background. So you can absolutely go into your empty space and kind of test out these browns to see which ones you think give you the right skin tone. But I'll tell you right now that you'll probably be using a combination, or you should be. Because, again, even on our skin, we have areas that are darker and lighter. We're not the same consistent color all the way through, especially on our faces. So we should have little bits of red and yellow for where our skin changes, and then a couple shades of brown or peach. And so that's how we're going to get started. Is I would choose a base color, which is kind of like the color that most matches the skin tone you're going for. So it could be a brown or a peach, or again, if you're doing like a blue skinned person, you can do that also. And once you have that base color, which I'll choose this, it is called tan. And I'm going to really lightly just start filling that in. If you have trouble coloring neatly with a crayon, like some people make it way too streaky, then what I would suggest is actually taking the wrapper off, breaking it and coloring sideways with it, because that way you can't really get a lot of hard lines. But otherwise, my only tip for, making it smooth is pressing super soft. We are going to layer a few colors into here. So if you press hard on your very first one, you're not going to see the other ones show up. So press super, super, super soft. I don't even know how well this is probably showing up on the video, but that's how soft I'm pressing. And what we're going to do is I'm going to show you where the highlights on our face are, because we will start pressing harder with our other colors, but only in certain areas. Okay? So right now I have a nice soft skin tone throughout everything. Okay? And that's my base. Now, before I color anything else, I'm going to show you where we're going to stick with our highlights. So if you touch your face, it helps you kind of understand where the brightest parts of your face are. Your nose, any part that sticks out. So your nose, right above and below your eyebrows, and the cheekbones is where your skin will have the most highlights. So those are the areas that you don't want to press too hard with any color. But other than that, the sides of your face, you can go through and you can start layering in some other colors. Okay. We'll have some darker colors a little bit underneath our eyes and along the sides of our nose. So we're leaving the middle of our nose light because that sticks out, so that has a nice highlight on it. Just like when we shaded the pumpkins, we had those highlights on the parts that stuck out the most, the top of the pumpkin. Okay? And this is going to start making our face look round and three-dimensional. So I'm actually just picking a couple browns and I'm really lightly layering them in to add some darker layers to her skin. But I am avoiding some spots. So I'm avoiding where the cheekbones would be. I'm avoiding the top right around her brow bone and the bridge of her nose, because those areas stick out, so they have highlights on them. So feel free to write this down as you're watching the video, or you can color right along with me. But everything I'm doing, it's super light. You could always press harder later and build it back up if it's not enough. But once it's on there too dark, there's really, we can go on top with white, but it doesn't do a whole lot to lighten it back up. Okay. So I'm starting to get this going in here. We do have some yellow areas, so I like to really lightly put some yellow. And this is where I can go over my highlight areas a little bit, because that will help make it look like a highlight. But again, super light. I'm not pressing hard at all. Okay. Little real light dusting of some red. Okay, so usually our face gets flushed and it can get a little rosy cheeked sometimes. But I'm not putting that red everywhere. I'm putting it mostly around the cheeks, where we do usually have a little more color. Okay. And once you think you put your colors in, if you want things to be darker, you can go back through. And just the more you layer, the more you're going to build up these colors. But again, just don't press hard in those areas where we want those highlights. But the areas where we are developing shadows, so the sides of the face, the sides of the nose, right above the eyes. Remember, our eyes are inside eye sockets, so they're like inside little caves in our face. So those areas do have shadows around them because they're inside little holes, so you can get really dark kind of above and below. But do it slowly, because you don't want it to look like there's huge bags under the eyes. And with these lighter colors, like right now I'm using the peach color, I can definitely press harder because it's not as dark. So when I press hard, it's not going to make as big of a difference. But I definitely built up to this and got a nice base layer of color first. And all these colors blend very nice together. So you're not going to have any funny, weird surprises by mixing these colors. Okay. Now, I forgot the ears. I forgot the ears. Okay. Again, start with a base. Not too much you need to worry about with the ears, other than, the insides. you can definitely get a little darker because, again, like little caves in there. So anywhere where light can't reach, it's going to be darker. Again, the key is don't press too hard. This should all be nice, light, layered colors. I barely press at all. I'm more just kind of like skating the crayon across everything. And hopefully now you can see where I'm talking about those highlights with the brows, nose, cheekbones. Those are starting to show up, and it makes her face look a lot more three-dimensional. So you can see, even though, you know, this person may not have brown skin, there's a lot of brown layered in there, along with the yellows and the reds, and you do a little orange. Okay. Now with the eyes, person can have whatever eye color you like. But the trick with the eyes, now I'm going to stick with brow because that's what I have here. Eyes are darker around the rim, so you can go ahead and press really dark around those edges. And then they are definitely lighter on the inside. If you can color towards the center of the pupil, it'll get those kind of lines, those striations, like another word for lines, that show the different shades within the eye. And it'll help make the eye look shiny if you get dark on the edge, but keep it light in the middle. Okay. Now with everything else, you can still follow that same idea of start with light. So again, the hair could be whatever color. It can be purple, green, blonde, brown, black, but start light. And then you can build up some texture by adding some darker lines. They always follow the direction the hair is supposed to grow. Start light, add in some dark lines. Now, this is a white mask, but just to help it look three-dimensional, I am going to put a real light bit of shading around the edges of it. It'll help it look like it's wrapping around her face and not just like this white sheet of paper that's glued on. Okay. Anytime you can add some shadows to show that something is 3D, it will help. So I'm putting really light shadows where my nose would, or her nose would be underneath here. Okay, again, very, 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 very light. You'll be much happier if you can fix something by darkening up, but there's not really a good way to erase this once it's in there. Okay. Same with the cap. No, the cap, I don't know if I was going to do. This is where the planning comes in. If you're not sure what color you want to make things, you can put that tracing paper on top and color to see if you like it first. I think I am going to stick with white because that was one of her colors, but I'm going to make that cross red. So same idea. Anytime something curves around, you want to do a little bit of a shadow, some little light shading around that curve. So this is curving back around her head. Really light. Always color in the direction of the edge. So instead of me going side to side here, I'm following the direction of the edge. And as you move towards the middle, just lighten it up, and you can darken it more on the edges if it's looking too light. Okay. This, because I'm not doing much shading in here, because this is all kind of on the same plane of her head. It's sitting sort of flat right on her forehead. I'll color this all nice and dark, and this isn't like skin tones. This is something that's printed, so it's a solid color. So now that you've learned this stuff, you should definitely look at your friends and your family and notice how skin can change colors depending on where it is, how things are brighter on the ball of their nose or darker under the eyes or underneath the lips. Usually there's a little bit of a shadow because your lips are blocking the light. There's lots of places where you'll find shadows, so you can definitely look at your neighbors when you're coloring, because obviously I didn't get to color mine here, and I can help you with that. So some other tips. I don't have my lips showing on here, but in general, the top lip, if I was going to do lips, I'll do it with red because that's what I have handy here, but To make them not look like lipstick, you should layer some brown and some red, because unless you're wearing lipstick, your lips are not straight red. The top lip is darker. I'm doing a terrible job coloring here because I need a thinner crayon. The bottom lip is usually a lot lighter and has a little bit of highlight in the middle of it because it's rounder. So I like to leave the middle of it much, much, much lighter. Help make it look round. I'm going to grab a brown to blend in with this. And the line between the lips should be pretty dark, almost black. So you can see I colored the top lip mostly solid and pretty dark. Bottom lip is much, much, much lighter. And if it's too light, you can always layer back in and build up some more color. If I also did not outline this, it would look a lot, you could see it a lot better if it was outlined. So that would be like a lip if you wanted to do that. So if you have any questions while you're coloring, make sure you stop and ask me. Let me help you. One other thing is you can layer lots of colors into the eyes, especially like blue eyes and green eyes. I usually have a lot of different shades in there. With brown, you can mix in some gold. Most artists do not make anything one single color. They layer in quite a few colors to make it look real. But at any time you have questions about colors or how to color or how hard to press, please let me know. Ask a neighbor who looks like they might know what they're talking about, and we will absolutely help you out. Totally forgot about the neck. So I have the peach here. Okay, the base. Okay, middle and neck will be brightest because that's the part that sticks out. The rest curves back. And again, you just layer in those other colors. Now, it seems like a lot of work, but it is definitely worth it to take the time and layer in some of these other colors. Okay, and there's her neck. All right, good luck. Once this is done, you will be cutting it out and we'll be gluing it on top of our background, which you may or may not have already drawn.